You're being lied to. Just straight up, whatever your position is, the news you're watching about it is lying to you.
The first thing that really struck me was the extreme humility that I encountered when I got there.
It's a Thought Police free zone, the Liberty Lineup radio show, where independent thought just can't be bought.
I'm an American. Red, white, and blue. And I'm a citizen of this world and of heaven. Some things were meant to be together. I believe in faith and freedom. Got a country too. I believe with faith and freedom, we're gonna make it through.
Welcome to the Thursday segment of the Liberty Lineup. This is Ben McClintock with Enoch Moore. And with this is the Liberty Lineup, the Naked Truth segment where we think right and wrong, not right and left. Today we are talking with some really special guests, talking about some things going on up in Oregon. Some first-hand witnesses from Utah, talking about things that we haven't seen talked about anywhere else.
We gotta stay strong, 'cause everything's on the line. We gotta rise up, we gotta stay strong, to save our way of life. I believe in faith that frees.
Again, this is Ben McClintock and Enoch Moore of defendingutah.org, where we think left and right. We think right and wrong, not right and left. And today we'd like to thank our show sponsor, EOS Mobile, the only cell phone service that gives you the peace of mind that your monthly bills are supporting only conservative candidates and causes of your choice, including this show. You need to call them, EOS Mobile, at 877-367-7524. Be among the first 10 callers during the show today, and you'll get a special offer if you mention the Liberty Lineup radio show. Call now, 877-367-7524. Again, that's 877-367-7524, 877-367-7524. For more information, go to eoscell.com, EOSCELL.com. Just a reminder that you can listen to the show, the Liberty Lineup, online by downloading the K-Talk app to your smartphone or at k-talk.com, where you'll find our calendar of events and chat room. I know a lot of people that maybe if they're traveling around and they get out of the range, they can download this and they can listen to it without any problems. It's really good. You can also listen. You can also like K-Talk's Facebook page at K-Talk Utah and photos to Instagram at K-Talk Radio, and tweet our handle at KTKK. Help us spread liberty around the world.
So, Ben, did you just expose yourself as a partisan guy? Is that what happened earlier?
That was an accident, the Freudian slip. But we are really glad that you guys joined us today. Thank you so much you are not going to be disappointed. You're going to want to let everybody know about today's show because of the guests that we have. I'm just really excited. We had a good chance to speak with them about their experience and what was going on up there.
And you're saying
they've
got some real exclusive new information.
Things that I haven't heard before.
Right.
And an aspect it's really important because the media, we talked about it last week, is you're being lied to. Just straight up, whatever your position is on what they should be doing, the strategy, whatever, the news you're watching about it is lying to you.
You're not getting it straight from any major media or even a lot of alternative media.
Right. And so we've been finding it's important that no matter your position on this, is that you want to be able to know what's going on from people that are there. And so that's why we wanted to have our special guest on today. So we would want to introduce them today. We've got Charla, Christie, and Guy Finicum. Hopefully I pronounced and I just hung up on one of you. Let's see here. We've got
Guy. Let's see. Right, telephone.
Can I help you with my last name?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. What?
Can I help you with my last name a little bit?
Yes, please.
That's
Finicum, sorry.
Finicum, yeah.
Apologize. So, Guy, we're going to have Charla on real quick. We accidentally lost her.
We need her to call in on this line 6.
Yeah, if she calls...
Line 6, tell our call screener. Connie's our call screener, by the way. Hi, Connie.
Appreciate his hard work.
Let's get the other caller on line 6, so that way we won't hang up on her. We can take 2 calls. 6, right.
So, well, that's the call-in line. So, Guy, sorry about that, all that inside baseball, but kind of tell us about yourself and what got you to go up to Oregon.
Well, let me tell you my story just a little bit.
Please, yeah.
If you're following the news at all, you'll see one of the people that is, you've got Ammon and Ryan Bundy seem to be, the Bundy brothers seem to be the main names in the news. But right on their heel is a person by the name of Lavoy Finicum. Lavoy does a lot of the speaking on the press conferences, and you'll hear his name and see his face a lot if you're looking. I think he's been infamously dubbed Tarp Man by a few people out there in the media based on I believe it was an MSNBC, spot that they had. They were trying to push him, but anyway, so here's where I come in. Okay, I want to make it really clear. I wasn't a part of this from the beginning. I came home from church a week ago last Sunday, and my wife said to me, "Do you know where your brother is?" I said, "No, where's my brother?" He says, "Well, he's taken over a federal building in Oregon." I said, "What?" Yeah, right off the bat, I thought, this is strange, and so I immediately tried to start finding out what I could find out, and I was really, going through news sources, and, all I could, the first things I start finding in the news is statements about these armed militia members who have, stormed this compound and taken over this federal building, and this is wildlife reserve, and I thought, wow, that sounds pretty intense. What are these guys doing? And all at the same time, I'm saying, what in the heck is my brother doing there?
Right.
And now my brother's a pretty passionate person, especially when it comes to, liberty issues and constitutional issues. He's very, very vocal about those sort of things. But, and he's even a Second Amendment person right down to the core of his being. But he's a father, and he's a grandfather, and he's not a violent man that goes out and seeks to create armed conflicts, and at least was my experience with him. And so I'm trying to make sense of this. And so I start looking on the media, and I'm finding a few things that seem, neutral, maybe slightly favorable, and lots of stuff that's just really looking scary. And so I'm really anxious for him. I'm worried for his safety, and I'm wondering what's going on in his head, because it just doesn't make sense. And and so I kind of went through the next couple of days, so I'm kind of helpless. What can I do? I don't know what he's doing. I don't understand. And then Wednesday morning, my good friend Charla Christie, who hopefully is going to be joining us again soon, she's not back yet. She said, "Hey, I know some people up in Utah who might be able to help." She connected me with some people she knew up in Utah that, and we thought, well, maybe we can go up and maybe diffuse this tension. I have some influence with my brother. Of course, he doesn't do what I tell him to do. Never has. He's actually my older brother. But I thought, I have some influence with him. Maybe we can get in and talk some sense into these guys. This is crazy what's going on. And so I reached out to my brother and said, hey, I got some guys, and they have some media background and expertise and how to work the political scene just a little bit. And so I said, maybe we could come up and help you with your message. And so I had an agenda to go up there and maybe help, because I knew what was coming out of the media wasn't accurate, and they were just getting hammered and hammered and hammered. And I said, well, I think maybe we can help you with your message, and the second part of me is maybe I can understand what the heck's going on, and if it's as crazy as it says, maybe I can get my brother out of there. That's
right.
my mind.
Totally.
So we put together our little group. Are you there, Charla?
Not yet. We're trying to grab her.
No, Charla. Yeah. Okay. So we put together our little group, and I met some people for the first time, a man by the name of Steve Maxfield and Todd McFarlane and John Pratt, and we met together with them, and they said, well, here's maybe some things we can do, and maybe we, and our intention was to go up, like say, and diffuse and maybe lessen the tension, and even in the back of my mind, maybe I can get them to put their arms down, and we can have peaceful dialogue. So the first thing I did before I even left home, I called the Harney County Sheriff's Department and told them who I was, and of course they didn't talk to me at all. They said they could have somebody get back to me, and so I waited a while, and I was contacted by an FBI agent by the name of Mark Maxwell, and he took my information. I think he wanted to find out who I said I was. I said I wanted to come up there, and I wasn't going up to join the cause. I wanted to go up, and maybe I could have some influence and maybe diffuse some of the tension. And
so getting things cleared up right off the bat, so that way they weren't going to haul you off if they found you trying to talk some sense into your brother.
Well, yeah, I wanted him to know I was coming. I wanted to make sure I wasn't, doing anything illegal. I wanted to make sure I was on the up and up and very open, and that was the agreement of the people who were going with me. They didn't want to, they wanted them to know we were coming and what we were about.
Yeah.
So,
we've got 2 more minutes. We got Charla on the line. Just real quick, wanted to let you know that she's with us. So we got both of you, Charla and Guy. Appreciate you both being on.
Yep.
So go ahead, Guy. Sorry.
So anyway, we proceeded to make arrangements. I talked to the people that I needed to clear things up, and the powers that be. My wife got permission from her, and so we headed north. And on the way up, I did get a return call from Mark Maxwell, who was the FBI agent who had called me back. He didn't catch me. He just left me a voicemail, and his voicemail said to this effect, it's not blocked off. It's open. You've got unfettered access. You can go in or not. It's your right to go up there. So it's your right. You can go. And so I had a go-ahead from law enforcement.
That's a big point I think we need to recognize is that they're not stopping anybody from going up there.
No. He said I could go. He told me, he said, straight out, it's your right to go. And I was very appreciative of that. That made me feel a little bit more secure about the situation, brought my tension down because, if I thought it was about to go hot, I imagine he would have told me, stay out of there or something, or they'd have it cordoned off or something like that.
Right.
But it was open, and he said I could go. So I essentially was given the green light to go into this area where they were and to that facility and that site.
Great. I think we need to hold off right there, and we're heading off to our break. We've got Guy Finicum and Charla Christie, eyewitnesses to what's going on up there in Oregon, and we've got a really interesting story to tell and what's going on. Going up there, trying to figure out what his brother was up to, and so it's really important that we find out from the horse's mouth what's going on. I'm Ben McClintock with
Enoch Moore.
And this is the Liberty Lineup, the Naked Truth segment, where we think right and wrong, not right and left. On K-Talk 630, k-talk.com. For more information, go to our Facebook page, the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. Like, share, and after the break, we'll be right back with Guy Finicum and Charla Christie.
Are back. This is Ben McClintock and Enoch Moore with the Liberty Lineup, K-Talk Radio, AM 630, k-talk.com, with the Naked Truth segment sponsored by EOS Mobile, the only cell phone service supporting conservative causes of your choice. People are asking us how they can join our grassroots network to get our updates and alerts. Just go to libertylineup.com. That's libertylineup.com and sign up. And if you like what you're hearing, you can support the cause of liberty with a donation of any amount. That's libertylineup.com. You can also like and share our Facebook page, the Liberty Lineup Radio Show.
And this is Ben McClintock. We are talking with eyewitnesses of what's going on up in Burns, Oregon. And we are talking with Charla Christie and Guy Finicum. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So as we went to the break, you were mentioning how you contacted law enforcement up there to let them know that you were coming. You weren't there to cause any issues, and they said, "Come on up, it's your right."
Yeah, and so we headed up there. I guess the gate was open, and so we went on up. That's a long drive up there. Wow, it took us forever to get up there. But it took us a full day to get up there, and so we arrived in Burns, late in the evening on Thursday night. I left voicemails with my FBI contact, every so often, let him know when I expected to be there, let him know when we got in town, told him we'd be, like to talk with officials when we got there. Never spoke to him again. All I was doing was leaving voicemails from that time forward. I never heard from him again after that. But
I think you said there was no need for him to talk with you. Just go.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, and so we got up there late that evening. Checked into the motel room, tried to get a little bit of rest, and we got up early the next morning and headed out to the Malheur site. Headed out there about 6 o'clock in the morning, and before we headed out, and we knew it was early. We thought, well, we'll swing by the sheriff's department and just check in. Surely it's early, but there will probably be somebody that we could just say, hey, here we are. We told you we were coming. Now we're heading out there. But it was, like I say, it was 5:30 in the morning. We swung by there, and we couldn't even approach the building. The sheriff's office was, the streets were closed. I mean, they had, big chain link fences across, said roads closed. So we didn't even have an ability to approach the sheriff's office. Maybe they'd move their operations to another side. I don't know. I can't really speak to that, but we never had a chance to make contact with them at all. So we headed on out to the site, and that's when we got our first experience of being on site. So we were met at the gate there by a young man. I don't know his name, and I'd called my brother, and he said, he told us, he'd be out there to meet us. So we went down into the site there, where they have a number of buildings. And my brother came out and met us, and we went in a building there, and we sat down, and we started to talk and tried to figure out, we had actually been in contact with him on the phone all the day before going up, and so we're starting to kind of piece things together, but we're still trying to get a full picture because not being on site, you can't feel, you can't see. And so we sat down, and over the next hour and a half, we visited with my brother, or 2 hours. And then we, Charla and I went into another meeting with Ammon and my brother and a number of other individuals there. And then following that, we sat down and talked with Ammon and my brother and a couple of the key players there. And we just talked and tried to figure out, what they were doing. We wanted to make sure that if we were going to be of any media support to them, we had to be able to be okay with what they were doing and
know what's going on.
So, yeah.
So Charla, what got you up there?
The people that we went up with were people that I had worked with previously. Guy was not acquainted with them, but we wanted to go up for the purpose of making sure that this situation didn't get out of hand. We wanted to see if there was a way to have a peaceful resolution. And, I guess one of the things that we thought going up was that we were hoping we could bring a message to them and maybe bring them home. I know that was one of the thoughts that Guy had, was maybe he could get his brother out of there. And we weren't sure exactly what was going on. From the reports, it sounded like a really dangerous, awful situation, and that there would be high tensions and such. And so we wanted to just go up and help, because I know the people, a number of the people that are up there, and Guy's brother. And so that's what we were hoping. We came away with a much different viewpoint than we came in with, and it was kind of interesting, going up there, seeing the real thing and saying, wait, there's a huge disconnect between what's coming out of
Right.
this situation.
And that's something I wanted to get both of your inputs on is what are there some key points that led you to understand that there's a disconnect between what the media is reporting and what actually is going on?
Well, let me speak to that. The first thing that really struck me was the extreme humility that I encountered when I got there. I didn't see any braggadocio or posturing or anything like that. I heard some very deep commitments, but a great deal of humility and a strong desire for peace. And what I learned was this truly was motivated. As I listened to Ammon talk, he'd been kind of painted as crazy, and I'd never met Ammon personally before. And as I listened to Ammon talk, my heart just softened towards the man. He'd spent 2 months up there, according to his story, really trying to help, the Hammonds with their situation where they were going back to prison because, as he started laying out, I got a lot more information on the Hammonds from him than I'd known, and it was a real travesty of what's been done to them.
What are some key points of what's happened to the Hammonds that Ammon wanted to help them with?
Well,
Can
the
I
thing
get
is,
to that?
Go ahead, Charla.
One of the things is that they had been kind of subject to double jeopardy in a number of ways. They did reach a settlement, a civil settlement that.
And double jeopardy for our listeners, the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution says you can't be charged for the same crime twice. Go ahead.
Yeah, and they had come to an agreement that they would pay a fine of $400,000, which is quite a hefty fine for an individual to pay. That they would pay that in exchange for not being prosecuted, and that was a civil settlement. And as I understand, before Dwight Hammond went into prison, he made the final payments on that.
Wow.
But I know. Is that amazing? Yeah. He's a 74-year-old
That's outrageous.
Guy. He was working.
Well, it almost seemed like triple jeopardy then.
Yeah.
Well,
he was
the thing
working
that happened there
as a trucker, paying that off so that he could go to prison. It's just heartbreaking.
That's awful. Go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, what happened there? There were multiple charges that were brought against the Hammonds, the father and son there, and and as you start reading the facts, it's crazy. Some estimates say that the fire that got out of control, caused about $100 worth of damage. So we've got people facing, years and 5 years minimum prison sentences for almost, for very little damage. Now, there's a lot of stories going around up there. I've heard stories they were covering up poaching. They were never charged with that. But what happens is they just had they were convicted on 2 charges simply because they admitted they did start 2 separate fires. If you look at the circumstances to why they did those, they both made a lot of sense. One was a backfire to protect their own property when a wildfire was coming in on them. Mm-hmm. The other was a prescribed burn that got out of hand, and they're the ones that put the fire out. And, then they did, in the course of that, one fire burnt 1 acre of public land, and the other burnt somewhere in the neighborhood of 130. Yeah. But, you're talking about, thousands and thousands of acres of area that gets wiped out with, huge wildfires every year. You heard the representatives speak of that on the Senate, or the House of Representatives floor.
Yeah.
But, anyway, so you look at the situation, so Ammon had spent, 2 months up there, trying to see what he could do, and he found 3 different courses of legal action that could be pursued to get this turned around at the local level, and he'd pursued all those, and nobody would respond. Nobody would act on him. The county sheriff wouldn't respond to what he had to say. No, I'm not a legal mind, and so. Forgive me if I'm talking about things I don't know about, but this was the heart of Ammon. He said, we did what we could do. We did what we could do, and at the end of the day, we were ignored on every front,
mm-hmm.
and the Hammonds were going to prison. And he said, then the media made a big deal about the Hammonds distancing them from him, but his claim is they never did personally. Their lawyer said it because they were instructed that if they didn't, cut off contact with him, that their prison facilities would not be as favorable as the ones they were currently going to, and so there was some
So they're blackmailing them to cut off contact.
Yeah, that's what I understand. But here's the other thing: as Ammon started to work up there, he said that he'd encountered a lot of other ranchers that were equally frightened or intimidated, and they didn't want to stand up because they were afraid of reprisals against them. This thing with the Hammonds has been going on between them and BLM for 20 years.
So the community is being kind of basically forced into silence out of fear of losing their own properties because they're afraid of the federal government. They're afraid of telling the truth and standing up for themselves just to keep the government out of their hair.
Well, that's definitely the picture that we got when we went up there. Now, the media was telling us just the opposite. These people would come into the community. Nobody in the community wanted them there. And, but when we got up there, the people that we encountered were different. Now, granted, we didn't do a scientific survey of the community, and, we're only witnesses to what we saw where we were.
Right.
But, we also are witnesses to what we felt. And, and I felt from this man, Ammon, a great deal of love and concern for some people that he felt like he had an obligation to not just walk away and let this injustice be done.
Right.
You
mentioned to me before about people in the community being afraid to interact with the people at the refuge and coming after dark. Tell us about that.
They were coming up. They were in the area talking to people. There's places where they've had meetings, and they have like whiteboards with different illustrations about the laws that they are following that are constitutional and how things got changed through the years. I think one of their major things is education, because this generation that we have right now has always lived under a quote-unquote federal occupation, or whatever, where the federal government is the supreme government, and it's not supposed to be like that. The local government is the one that governs best because it's closest to the people, and they understand the needs of the people. It's not a one-size-fits-all. The federal government is. And so they're doing a lot of education up there, and I saw a lot of people come up. They were just talking. They were standing, in the areas. It was very friendly. It was so peaceful, and it's a beautiful area. It was pretty cold, but there were a lot of people there. And then there was a lot of people bringing food up there, and those were the locals. They hadn't put out any calls for food, but, people had started bringing in things, and there was plenty.
So these locals that want them out of there are bringing them food to help them out.
Yeah, it's not what it seems, from the media. The locals are, they'd go find somebody who didn't want them there and then interview them, and we found a lot of that where there was a lot of sensationalism. But I just want to follow the money. Usually in this world, people do things because it's going to benefit them financially at some point. Ammon and Ryan and Lavoie have absolutely no ability to make any money off of this.
Right.
In fact, it's exactly the opposite. They're pouring a lot of their time, their resources. They're forfeiting, things at home that they would have had otherwise, but they're going up there for the purpose of helping people who have been oppressed and trying to turn things around so that they can make, they can use their land, which actually is where everything comes from. In the long run, it comes back to who uses the land. And so they're working with these people to help them, and they saw the plight of, a county that had been under great federal oppression, because almost all of the jobs there, it was like the federal government was the biggest employer, and the county that had been a huge money maker before, when they had all of their lands, they were one of the richest counties, was now in huge trouble money-wise. Such high unemployment, most of the people were leaving, and
so because of all that, they're really feeling a fear of being able to speak out because their livelihoods depend on the federal government.
Right. And it's not that they're oppressed by somebody coming in with a weapon and kicking them off, but the regulatory oppression is huge, and that's how people lose land. And it's not
exactly
not violent, quote unquote, but
Right.
it is. It affects the same change just over a longer period of time.
Hold on real quick. We need to hold you over to the break. We're listening. We've got on the line, we've got Charla, Christie, and Guy Finicum that are eyewitnesses to what's going on up in Oregon. This is Ben McClintock
And Enoch Moore.
with the Liberty Lineup Naked Truth segment from defendingutah.org. For more information about this topic, like and share our Facebook page, the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. We'll be right back after the break with Guy and Charla.
And we are back again. This is Enoch Moore and Ben McClintock on K-Talk Radio, AM 630, k-talk.com, with the Liberty Lineup Naked Truth segment sponsored by EOS Mobile, the only cell phone service supporting conservative causes of your choice. Join our grassroots network to get our updates and alerts. Just go to libertylineup.com. That's libertylineup.com and sign up. If you like what you're hearing, support Liberty Lineup with a donation of any amount. That's libertylineup.com. You can also like and share our Facebook page, the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. And we are talking with Guy and Charla, first-hand witnesses who just got back from Oregon. And just to summarize, we want to hit some of the key points that we're really bringing out here. Is they went up there just not knowing what's going on, and
Trying to save them if they can from being with a bunch of crazies.
Right.
If I'm understanding right.
possibly prepared for the possibility that what the news was saying was true. Okay, maybe we'll talk to them and diffuse it and that sort of thing. But so they went with no real expectations, just trying to see what they could do to help. And what they found is that as we all kind of really suspect, all honest thinking people suspect, is that the media and everything you hear is not really the case. And you have a county where the federal bureaucracy, the oppression it has created extreme hardship and extreme oppression, and all through unconstitutional bureaucracies and laws, things that are not enumerated powers in the Constitution that they cannot be doing. So the lawless federal government has created this. And so
not just illegal actions, but I mean not just extra constitutional, but like specifically you were talking about enumerated powers, that what they're doing is not enumerated. Beyond that, the enumerated powers of not allowing an American to be charged of the same crime more than once, that's been broken.
That blatantly, right, you're right, blatantly
let me
anti-constitutional.
Go ahead, Guy, go
explain
ahead.
how that worked. You know, they weren't charged twice for the same thing. What happened is they charged them.
But they've been punished more than once for the same
they
crime.
Pled, yeah. But after they had passed the period for appeal, they came back with the second sentence. After they'd actually spent time in prison and done their time in prison.
And paid the fine that we're supposed to keep them out of prison, right?
They came back with the second sentence and said you had to do more now.
Right. So they were first forced to pay a fine. Then they said to keep them out of prison. Then they sent them to prison. They said that wasn't enough prison. Now you got to go back to prison again. Right?
Yeah, essentially, and that's not exactly the details. I mean, that's pretty close. That's pretty close the way you've got it there. And a person can find that if they'll take the time to see exactly what order that went down. But the problem is and there was an agreement with that plea that they were going to quit being harassed. It was all done, or so they assumed. And then another, then they come back and they appealed it and said no, they got to do more prison time again. So it's kind of crazy. Here's the point I want to make about that, though. Here's the point I want to make about that is that just kind of makes sense to me is if the government was close to the people and this was happening at the county level, the Hammonds would have never gone to prison in the first place. And if they had, it would have been a small fine and a small time in jail and it would have been done. But what happens is we have the federal government working with federal laws that were made for circumstances entirely unrelated to this. And then they're coming in and applying it because that's the law. They have to apply the law. It's a mandatory minimum. If this wasn't happening in Washington, the Hammonds would be fine. But it's happening back there, and there's not a lot of heart in that. It's just, bring the hammer down. Add to that, it appears that there are agendas as well.
Yeah.
So let me comment also on, you asked me about, people coming at night. And that was something that really shocked me, because I went up there understanding that the community didn't really want them there, but they were there for a cause, and they were going to stick to their cause no matter what. And initially, I guess that's kind of what it looked like, because Lavoie told me that the first community people that started coming to them would wait until night after all the lights were out, all the media was gone, and then they would come and they would talk with them all night long, and then they would leave because they didn't want their faces to be seen. They were afraid of what would happen if their faces were seen.
Wow.
But here's what's really cool is over the last week, that shifted. Now there are public meetings in Burns with the community members on a regular basis. People are standing up and talking about the offenses and the things that they've been suffering. They've opened up this dialogue. It's really quite a shift. And so, there's some really cool things happening from our perspective, from what we can see. Granted, we just have a limited view. We're just a couple of people that went up there and looked. We didn't see what we thought we were going to see, and we came away saying, I can't say anything bad about them. And then we
That's
came
the
home.
key, is being able to see it firsthand, coming there with one impression, seeing it firsthand, and coming out with a completely different impression. Can you speak on the fact that some of the documents that they're actually being able to go through to show that the farmers are being targeted or the ranchers are being targeted to get them?
I can't speak with any knowledge on that at all.
Gotcha.
I just don't know.
Gotcha.
I think we talked about how they were, what the idea was, which was to turn that land back over to the county.
Right.
And they're just taking steps, methodical steps, to turn that into the Harney County Resource Center rather than a national facility.
Gotcha.
And looking for places where, land was taken after people owned it and then put into federal hands, and they were going to go back and find where that transaction occurred and then contact the original owners and ask if they wanted to, first of all, claim it again, use it, and then, maintain it, because those are the three things that you have to do if you've got a piece of property. You have to do those, claim, use, and maintain. You have to have those things, and if they're willing to do that, then they get it back. If they're not willing to do it, and it's just land that's there owned by the federal government, because we recognize that, the federal government is not allowed to own land outside of Washington, D.C. and other small places.
Right.
That land now belongs to the county, and they could auction it off, and the money would go to the county, or the county could hold it. It's just putting things back. It's kind of a restoration, if you will, of how things should be if we didn't have the federal influence.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it was
I
done
think one
slowly,
thing
and so people, it was kind of like the boiling frog, and so now people are realizing, hey, wait a second, I'm getting cooked. We need to fix this. We need to turn that heat back down, is what it seems like, right?
But I think a lot of us don't even know that the water's boiling.
Well, that's true, too.
Born in the boiling water,
Yeah.
and it's always been that way, and we're used to it. So there is kind of a huge re-education and re-understanding of how things were set up in the very beginning,
and unbrainwashing of what the federal government's indoctrinated us with.
Right, and it makes so much more sense in the original than it does this way, because we have so many resources. It's kind of like we're playing in a sandbox of diamonds and starving to death.
Right.
Now, thank goodness we still have the Constitution on paper, so that at least intelligent, honest people have a place to go look and still read and still understand the laws as it was originally written.
The real law of the land.
The real law of the land. And thank goodness for that, and that it hasn't been wiped away by an Article 5 convention yet. Because if that were the case, then we wouldn't even have the original law of the land to go back to anymore.
Right.
True, and having elected officials who understand the Constitution is one of the biggest deterrents to allowing the federal oppression coming in. If your sheriff is squared away with the Constitution and knows that how things are supposed to be, then the sheriff understands that he is preeminent over any kind of federal official. he is the supreme authority, the executive of that. Of
So
the
is that sheriff there? Is he not understanding this? Does he just like what the federal government's doing? What's going on up there with that?
He's very much in. He coordinates quite a bit with the FBI, which was pretty obvious when Guy called the sheriff's office and said, this is the situation, and then the call was returned by an FBI agent.
Right.
Oh, wow.
The guy who was the sheriff up there, he was not elected. He was appointed. He's fulfilling the term of a sheriff that resigned.
Oh, wow.
And so he's not familiar with the Constitution, even though he's been in the military. He's not familiar with how it works. He's just following what the FBI tells him. And a lot of times, the FBI will contract with local agencies and then start funneling money in that way.
So he's just following orders.
Yeah, they're doing. They feel that they're doing what they're supposed to do because they don't have the understanding that they are the premier government. They feel that they're subordinate, and when they act subordinate, then they are.
Right.
I have to be careful myself because I don't know what goes on in his head, and I don't know exactly what he's doing.
That's fair.
I'm just looking at the outside results. I did call his office, and I did get a call back from the FBI. I think one thing that I just want to back up a little bit and share with you that I learned also is the ranchers who are trying to establish their claims over their land. By and large, they're not trying to claim the land. They're just trying to claim the private property right to graze it. In other words, they have the grazing right to that land is what they're trying to reestablish it for themselves,
right.
And they want to work through the county to have the county help protect that. They have, I didn't see any intent to have the ranchers become the sole owners and proprietors of all those vast tracts of land.
Gotcha.
I think they see that people can have mining claims, people can have logging claims, even the hunters and the recreational.
We've just got a couple of minutes, Guy. I just wanted to give you both a chance real quick to kind of, what's the takeaway from all this? What do you want to make sure that everybody understands?
Don't take the first thing you see on the headline and believe it, ever, ever, ever.
Ever.
Yeah. I just think that the firearm, the gun issue has been blown completely out of proportion. When we were there,
Right.
I saw some people packing. I never saw anything. As far as I know, no guns have ever been pointed or fired. But they are a protection and a mutual deterrent of, which is why things have gone on this long.
It's legal to open carry there, so they're not doing anything wrong.
That's right. That's right. Everything has been done legally. I don't see that there's any problems with how it's going, and if it can continue, it could be a great asset to those Harney County people. Plus, the whole feeling there was peaceful and loving, and I know that doesn't make any media headlines.
That's not exciting.
But when people care about each other and are working together and cooperating, it felt so good, but there wasn't anything that would sell. So
that's huge. Well, thank you both, Charla and Guy. We really appreciate you coming on. It looks like it's the federal government that's being lawless in this case. Thanks so much for giving us your eyewitness kind of account of what you guys were able to see and what you guys went there with and how that changed because of actually being able to see what happened.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Ben.
Okay. Well, thanks to our sponsor with EOS Mobile, where your monthly bill goes to support this show and only conservative candidates and causes of your choice. Go to EOSCELL.com for more information and mention the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. This is Ben McClintock
and Enoch Moore
with the Liberty Lineup Naked Truth segment every Thursday, 10 to noon. We'll be back in the next hour with a guest that's trying to unseat a sitting legislator to find out what's going on.
We're gonna talk more in depth with her.
So we'll be right back with the Liberty Lineup.